The noise is still there, which is a perfect way to transition to WWE Raw, which is still there on the USA Network Mondays at 8 p.m., ending in the vicinity of 11 p.m.
In the vicinity. Actually, every once in a while they might go over, but they let us know about it ahead of time. And more importantly, they tell the cable systems as well. Just a thing to point out. But anyway, they were in Rupp Arena, right down the road in Lexington, Kentucky. Rupp Arena, named after college basketball coaching legend Adolph Rupp. And do we know the crowd, or can you research this while I am talking about Rupp Arena?
Let me find it.
Because obviously Rupp Arena was the scene of the great shows that Jerry Jarrett used to run between they opened up in, I believe it was April or May of 1978, wrestling in Rupp Arena, and were monthly until, God, the late 80s, when I believe they lost television. There's a reason why that they pulled out. But that's where they had the biggest Lawler Savage match, when they, mended their fences and drew 8,000 people. And that was the thing. Lexington, Kentucky in those days, between 78 and the mid 80s, when everybody's business started crumbling, was not just the number 2 town in terms of size of crowd in the Memphis territory. I think the biggest crowd was 8,000 something for Lawler and Savage. And I think they came close to that back in 79 for Lawler and Fargo. But nevertheless, they only ran once a month. All the other towns in the territory were weekly, but the actual gate in Lexington would generally be bigger than any of the Memphis gates that month, unless they did a big sellout, because they didn't have as many general admission seats. And Lexington was just a hot town, especially with the girls from the University of Kentucky came to see the Fabs and the Rock and Roll and Lawler and Dundee. And then the guys started coming to see the girls that were going to see those guys. And it was, anyway, one of the best towns in the territory in terms of not only size of crowd, but the gate. And Rupp Arena, as you saw from Raw, it was built specifically for basketball. And because of that, it looks fantastic on television, because the way that the seats are configured, it's rectangular, but there's a giant upper deck. I think they finally put chairs in. When they first opened in the 70s, they had bleachers, so they could literally get as many people jammed in as possible in the upper deck, and seat 10 or 12,000 in the lower bowl, and then another 10 to 12 in the upper bowl, or in the upper seats, because it seats 23,000 for basketball. And they built it in Lexington, Kentucky, which I don't think the population in the 70s of Lexington was 200,000 people, but it was for the University of Kentucky Wildcats games that would sell out and turn away every fucking game. And otherwise, they couldn't get anybody, but like the Rolling Stones could sell out Rupp Arena. Otherwise, for the first couple of years, you couldn't find anything that could really fill that building. So they were open for some dates, and they had an apparatus where they could put a curtain down the middle of the building. And if they curtained the middle of the building and used the lower bowl, then you would have a sellout 6,000 or so fans jammed in, and it was a great atmosphere. And if they opened the upper deck and put 1,000 or 2 in that, then it was fucking great. And half the building was still empty, but you couldn't see it because it was blocked off. But anyway, point I'm making is the WWE filled it up for pay-per-views in the Attitude Era. When there's floor seats, and combined with the way that it's built, where the bleachers go straight up from the sides of the basketball court straight up, all you can see is people from any angle. So it looks like a goddamn stadium. How many did they have there the other night? Have you found that yet?
Yeah, WWE Monday Night Raw, Rupp Arena, Lexington, Kentucky, February 12th. This is courtesy of WrestleTix. Tickets distributed, 10,108. Their previous visit was in June for SmackDown, where it was 9,841, so they're slightly up. And for the record, despite whatever stars were in segments, these were the matches. Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed, LA Knight versus Ivar, Liv Morgan versus Zoe Stark, and Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci versus Jey Uso and The New Day.
You couldn't have sold 15 tickets at a goddamn all-you-can-eat buffet to see that lineup probably in the glory days of Lexington wrestling. But now, thankfully, for the WWE, they're selling the trademark or the name Raw and it's live national television, and the stars, the real stars, will talk to you. But anyway, I noticed, and if anybody wants to go back and look, they've got 10,000 people there with that stage, and the fact that they've got some people dribbled into that upper bowl and it's dark up there. They made a 23,000 seat building that had 23,000 plus floor that had 10,000 whatever people in it. Looked like it was goddamn jammed. Did you notice, or you just saw more people? There are no, across from the hard camera, there's no big walls like some arenas have. There's no big entrance way to a vomitorium, as they say, to the concession stands. It's just fucking people. Did you notice?
I didn't realize just how big the building was because, most of these buildings now, if they're not curtained off, it looks like they are because that's where the stage is. That's where everything ends. The stage is the end of what you see. But it looked pretty good.
Oh, yeah. And again, I hate to give it to them, but my Cardinals have shit the bed and fell back in it, as Grandpa used to say. But the University of Kentucky for years has been a powerhouse in college basketball, and they got that arena almost 50 years ago in Lexington, Kentucky. This seats over 23,000 people just because of that fucking program. And every rich motherfucker in the state of Kentucky went to UK. Anyway, yeah, they started out with that 6-man tag team match. Gunther and Kaiser and Da Vinci and Kofi and Xavier and Jey Uso. And it went for a long time. And I mean, we love Gunther. He's one of the top talents in the business. And his boys work hard. They have tried to make them somewhat more serious. I think we both would agree over the past few months, whereas they were really goofy flunkies at one point. But I didn't want to see half an hour of this match. Did you? Just be honest.
No, I certainly did not. And no. And I knew who was going to do the job.
Yeah.
At least I thought I did.
Well, one of either Kaiser or Da Vinci, and now Da Vinci.
It's always Da Vinci. No, it's always Da Vinci.
Well, it used to be Kaiser. I guess they've helped him out a little bit. But a random observation. Jey Uso, he is so showboaty. Now that the heel looks like a dipshit, either standing there or wibble leg wobbling, waiting on the punches and the gyrations. And I know people say the same thing about the Horseman and Dusty, but Jey Uso ain't Dusty right now. And this ain't the 80s crowds that would stand there and hang on it either. When he backs up, spits and throws the slap or the punch and he gets leveled, he looks like a dipshit. But if the heel stands there while he goes into those gyrations, and then the heel looks like a dipshit. And again, maybe The Rock gets away with it, but Jey Uso ain't The Rock yet either. Do you see where I'm going with it? Steve Austin, if he wanted to, could stand there and toot and whatever the fuck. But Jey Uso ain't Steve Austin. Is there a pattern here?
I don't know about a pattern, but I agree with you. And I think he was at a certain level with the bloodline because of where that storyline and where Roman Reigns is. But he's kind of lost in the mid-card shuffle right now on Raw.
And I don't think he's doing himself any favors, though, when he's... To me, I'm starting to think that sooner or later, the fans, and they like to eat and everything, it's audience participation. But some people in that building, especially the more cynical amongst them, are going to start saying, if that guy would just throw his fucking punch or just do his instead of dancing like he's hot shit, it's over the top, it's too much. He's not the boogie woogie man in North Carolina. So anyway, that's about the, and it's kind of a combination of a rock tribute and a guy that thinks that his shit's a little hotter than it might be currently cooking at. And that was that. And he beat old Da Vinci with splash off the top rope. But and they followed that with the WrestleMania kickoff package. We've already talked about the kickoff, but they did a nice recap of it. But did you see the next little pre-tape package they did on our friend old Andrade?
I did. I get a kick out of him talking, so I make sure to watch his stuff.
But here's the thing. I understood him. I mean, it was, you have to listen, but still, he spoke slowly. He enunciated it to the best of his ability. And more importantly, the company putting him on television didn't just stand him out there for a minute to fucking gargle dishwater and with nothing to say. They produced him. They gave him material to say that is about himself to get himself over. Meanwhile, they edited the video. He looks like something. When he spoke, we needed neither subtitles nor to just be left scratching our heads. You could understand what he was saying, and he's putting himself over. And now he looks like something, right?
He still sounds like he's trying to romantically sell you tequila in another language.
Well,
I was US. He's always out of breath. I was US champion, NXT champion.
Well, now you sound like the Sheik. Oh, but I was UFC champion, NFC champion. But I'm just saying, he looks more like somebody here in this presentation, in this context, than he did standing over there trying to do his own shit. And we don't know. I don't speak Spanish. So I don't know if it's a case where he is an outstanding public speaker in Spanish, and it's just that English is his second language. I can't speak a second language at all, so I'm not knocking him. But I don't know whether it's his accent that prevents him from being able to communicate effectively in English unless he slows it down and he's produced, but that's the dims to conditions what prevail. So they went and used that to some advantage here. And I mean, it could be, is he, and I say this with love, is he a Bobby Eaton in Spanish? Is he just a guy that a lot of people have trouble understanding him speak? I don't know, because I can't understand what the other language that he's speaking to begin with. But they've at least nullified some of that disadvantage here. Is that an unfair thing I just said about this?
Well, we'll see, because again, it's just a promo package. He has to actually get over in front of the fans. That hasn't necessarily happened on the main roster. It happened in NXT when he was with Zelina Vega. The other thing is he's stronger as a heel. Is he being presented as a babyface?
No, I didn't get that here. I just got that he's just a cool guy that thinks he's hot shit.
That's what you see when you see him? That's a cool guy. That's a
cool guy that thinks he's hot shit.
It's like George Costanza with Dan Cortez.
Yeah, now that we've had the weather, we'll go to the sports. But anyway, so now we're about 40 minutes into the show because of that marathon 6-man, but the Elimination Chamber qualifying match, Bobby Lashley and Bronson Reed. And I swear to God, this matchup does neither one any good, because it's like two Volkswagens trying to break dance. They can't, you've diminished Bobby Lashley's size and power and strength and his physique and everything, because the guy he's in there with is a fucking, monster himself. But at the same time, Bronson Reed, you can't have Bobby Lashley being thrown around like a fucking rag. And they're punching and clubbing a lot, because they're not going to be doing high spots. And there's no, it's like, if it was two magnets, there are two positives and not a positive and a negative. How else could I convey this clash of styles?
I don't know, because it didn't have anyone that was involved in any of the main shit. So it was one of those matches I had on waiting for. That's kind of where I am now with my fandom of a lot of this stuff. I'm not really into throwaway matches, even if it's an elimination chamber, eliminator. whatever the fuck it is.
Qualifier.
Qualifier, not an eliminator, qualifier. I mean, I kind of
But you know,
I kind of thought I knew who was going to win. I kind of thought I knew who was going to win, and I kind of thought, you know, if I want to get something to eat, I got to pick and choose my times. Lashley versus Reed versus, I don't know what's next. I mean, they screw me if it's like Valhalla and Ivar and the models, but I took my chances and I used this match to go.
And Bronson Reed, we liked him. I liked him, and I still do like the concept of him. But I didn't like Mr. Nice Guy, and I don't know, he comes and he goes. He's kind of like an AEW guy over here on this program. But just stylistically, and to get Bronson Reed over as an ass kicker that he looks like, dare I say, match him up in a personal issue with a Ricky Morton-esque smaller baby face that you might want to get over as a sympathetic figure who can sell his ass off and fight from underneath this big bully or whatever. And by the same token, with Lashley, they're presenting Lashley as a baby face now, but at his size, look, he can't get a lot of sympathy. But can you imagine saying, if suddenly we could just make an interpromotional match, and he was healthy, MJF as a heel could make Bobby Lashley look like the greatest babyface in the world. Psychologically, the way he'd put the match together and the attributes that he has, that he could fly and still get heat and cheat, etc. You see what I'm saying? Some of these styles fit better with other people's physiques and attributes. And this wasn't it, dog.
So I missed nothing.
You missed nothing, but actually, no, you did miss probably the biggest pop that got deserved in a fucking match on this show. Lashley slammed him off the top rope, and that brought him up, boy, because boom, and then he speared him 1, 2, 3. But that was a big pop in an actual match instead of a pop in an interview. And yeah, Lashley, speaking of interviews, I think it was on Inside the Ropes, our friend Kenny McIntosh over there across the pond. But the fucking clickbait headline of the thing from Bobby's interview, I'm kidding, Kenny, I love you, was WWE superstar explains when he almost killed Jim Cornette. So, of course, a lot of people wanted to delve into that a little bit further, but it was true. It was not a false. Did I tell you a story when Lashley gave me whiplash for 2 weeks? I couldn't drive or turn my head.
I think a long time ago. I don't remember the details, though.
But basically, he was telling the story of this, and he was explaining that it was an angle on OVW television. I was the announcer, but I was going to be at Six Flags or wherever, what show we were building, in the babyface's corner to try to prevent any interference from the blah, blah, blah. And so basically, we didn't do this often, but about once a year, I might take a bump leading up to the big Crusade show or whatever. So Lashley was using a power slam for a finish at the time. And I made it, because he was green, he'd only been here like 2 months, right? I made it clear to him. I said, I am not talking about a power slam, right? Don't power slam me. When I go over the other guy, you're going to grab me and just give me a body slam, right? Just a regular body slam, boom. And of course, I'll sell that like I'm dead because you're fucking huge. And hopefully I won't be dead. I told him, just body slam, right? So what I didn't know was that apparently, since he'd been there in class and or in the matches, whatever, he was so fucking strong that he was just grabbing the guys and picking them up without them going up or helping or even the form, or he was just picking people up and just slamming them and carrying them around. Not in a dangerous way. He just didn't require any assistance in picking a motherfucker up, right? So when he grabs me and goes for the slam, I will try to explain in audio for the benefit of those that may be inexperienced out there, or possibly some of the independent wrestlers, how you give and take a body slam. If you're going to pick somebody up for a slam, your right arm goes in between their legs, the crotch lift, and your left arm goes over their, hold on, I'm turning around here, right fucking shoulder. So You're picking a guy up with your right arm between his legs and your left arm over his fucking right-hand shoulder. But it's the responsibility of the guy going up for the slam to go up for the slam. And the way that you do that is my right hand goes on his left thigh, because I'm going to post up. As he's bent over and grabbed me like I just described, my left arm is going over his fucking left shoulder, and I'm going to put that arm stiff over his back so that I'm bracing against the side of his neck with my armpit. And then if you're in your first day of wrestling school and you don't know how to do it, and I've seen a lot of people do this in actual fucking matches in front of people, you know you're supposed to help go up, but you don't know how, so you will push off with both feet at the same time. And if you do that, chances are sooner or later you're going to give somebody a hernia because you've just boosted all your weight up on them for no fucking reason. What you do is with your right hand on the fucking thigh and your left arm braced over the shoulder and around the neck, you're going to spin your left leg up to your left side and push off with your right foot. You're almost trying to do a cartwheel with this guy's assistance. And once you've swung that fucking left leg up and you start to push off with that right leg, he's going to stand up underneath you and you're going to be up there, and then you arch your back and you look up. And now you got that nice, pretty Harley race fucking arch to it. And then the guy slamming you, he has stood up under you and picked you up, and he just turns you and he slams you right in front of him. He doesn't have to take a step. He doesn't have to move his feet. He can hot dog if he wants to, but it's not necessary. When he slams you, you end up, your shoulders land where your feet were when you were standing in front of him and he started to pick you up. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, well, that's what I was doing, but that wasn't what Bobby was doing. When I went to fucking spin up there, he just started picking me up like he had everybody else. And in this interview, his quote was, he said, he just went up like nothing. And all of a sudden I was up on top of him for the slam before that he fucking realized he had anything. And what he did was he was trying to, instead of power slam me, turn me over gently and throw me down to the mat. But in doing so, because I was up so much higher and so much easier than everybody else that he'd just been chest to chest slamming, he over-rotated me. And he slammed, my feet hit first, my knees bent, then my fucking ass hit, then my face went over my knees where my chest compressed against my fucking knees. I bit my fucking tongue and then my head flapped back. Oh my God. He folded me up like a fucking pocket knife when I hit the ground. And it gave me whiplash. And he said, oh my God, I've killed Cornette. He's been here 2 months. His career is over. So he goes on to say in the interview that when we get to the fucking back, I'm screaming and cussing. He's like, oh, this is it. He said, wait, he's screaming and cussing at everybody else. I said, who the fuck has not showed him how to do it? Well, he was just picking everybody. I said, show me how you're picking these motherfuckers up, right? And he started bending over and just crotch lifting these fuckers, and their feet, they didn't even push off with both feet. They didn't push off. He was just picking them up. I said, who's not fucking told him what the fuck's going on here? And they said, well, he was getting us up anyway. I said, anybody in class, anything. Everybody was scared to tell him, or they didn't notice. I don't know what the fuck. I said, no. And I went up for him. This is before the whiplash set in. This is only about 15 minutes later. I went up for him in the fucking dressing room again in front of all the guys. And I'm up there. I said, look, this. I said, do you feel me? I'm looking down at Lash. Do you feel me? He said, no. God damn it. I had to be the guinea pig. Teach Bobby Lashley how to do a body slam.
Wow. Well, you know, that was a hell of a match and a hell of a story. Much better than the match. And I would have to think when you're suffering from whiplash, the one thing you don't want to worry about is where you're going to get your next healthy meal. You just kind of want it there right in front of you. You don't want to have to prepare it or buy the vegetables or do anything. You just want it brought right to you because you have whiplash.
Yes, and have somebody stick the food in your mouth and rub your neck so you don't have to chew. No, when you can't turn your neck, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot go to the grocery store and buy the proper produce because it does require some element of dexterity in terms of whether you look to the left or you look to the right. And by the same token, if you've bitten the end of your tongue off because you've been whiplashed down with such goddamn authority, you might want to get a special kind of meal that may be a little mushier and less corrosive, but whatever. If you've got a busy life, if you're being body slammed on a regular basis by Bobby Lashley, or you're just going out and working your fingers to the bone to support you and the children, well, then you don't want to spend a lot of time cooking. And that's why, Brian, I'll have you know that so many people in this country are not only overweight, but diabetic and have all kinds of innard rot, your gut health. You know, we've heard about gut health on this show before.
Yeah.
We're eating garbage. That's why they call it fast food, because nobody has time. Nobody has any time anymore, time to play B-sides, because we're all in this rush, the busy, hurry, scurry world. And we don't have time. That's why the fast food is poisoning us, because it's fast and we don't have time for slow food.
Not in this rush world.
In this hurry, scurry type of atmosphere. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and you're wearing milk-bone underwear, ladies and gentlemen. So you need somebody that's going to prepare your food. And you need somebody to try, because if, you got to watch who's preparing your food, you might have to have a taster, and that would be extra expense. But if you go to a place you trust, like our friends at Factor, over at factormeals.com, you go to a place you trust and you get delicious, ready-to-eat meals. They're already made. They just need to be eaten. You can eliminate the time it takes to make it and just spend the time it takes to eat it. And if you eat fast, well, it's bad for your digestion, but who are we to judge? But they make eating better every day easy because they have a variety of dietitian and chef-crafted meals that are delivered right to your door. One day the chef brings them, the next day the dietitian, they swap out. No reason for anybody to feel put upon. But you're going to have 35 different options a week to choose from, including if you're on a keto diet, if you're on the Calorie Smart diet, the vegan and veggie diet, and so much more. They've got all kinds of different strategies for your eating pleasure. So again, if you don't want the meat, they got the vegan and the veggie. And if you're doing the low carb, low sugar thing, they got the keto. Brian, you and I have picked the Calorie Smart, and I couldn't believe these folks came on board. Stacy has enjoyed these in the past. When she was doing the keto diet, it's boom, it's right there, and you just fucking heat it up and eat it. And they've not only got dinner, they got breakfast. They got, depending on what time of day you might eat lunch, they got the lunch or the supper. Saying you can sign up and save because it's less than takeout. Or have you priced the Uber Eats lately? It's like, it's uber expensive. And also, folks, I'll have you know that this is not some kind of kennel ration type of deal. They have a dietitian look at these things. And it's approved to be not only nutritious, but delicious. Although you'll be the judge of the delicious, but for heaven's sake, for most people, it's quite tasty. So nevertheless, would you like to know how to get involved in all of this?
I would love to let the listeners know how they can get involved with all this, whatever this may be.
Whatever this may be, the Factor meals, 100% ready to heat and eat, no prepping, no cooking, and no cleanup. Well, the heating is cooking. At least the way I do it is. I guess some people do get more flowery with it. But you can go right now to factormeals.com/JCE50 and use the code JCE50. And the reason why the code is JCE50 is you're getting 50% off. 50% off if you go to factormeals.com/JCE50. You're going to get 50% off. And again, 2-minute meals that you can, as a matter of fact, it says here where you can choose from 6 to 18 meals a week. How the fuck you going to have time to eat 18 meals a week, even if they're quick?
Well, there's 3 meals a day if you're having a proper balanced diet.
I haven't eaten 3 meals a day in 40 years.
I said if you're having a proper balanced diet.
Oh, you did issue that caveat, didn't you? Actually, I used to just have 1 meal all day. But I got away from that, and you can drop pounds, drop ounces, but you won't drop a lot of money. At factormeals.com/JCE50 and using the code JCE50 to get 50% off a variety of ready-to-go complete meals approved by professionals and people who know how to cook. Chef crafted, not chef
Crafted.
Crafted, chef crafted items for your culinary pleasure. And you don't have to clean up afterwards. Well, you might have to wipe your mouth. We're not responsible for that. How often do you wipe your mouth after you eat?
I have not counted.
I mean, is it a normal thing or just every once in a while? If you eat something but you can sense that you don't have anything on your face, are you still wipe it, or is that wasted motion?
I don't know. Now that you're making me think about it, is this something I do and I don't even realize it, even if I don't have a mess on my face? I mean, if you're eating a pastrami sandwich, you can be wiping your face.
Well, it depends on what the condiments are. If you've got pastrami stuck to your face, it may be ruined pastrami. Did you get it from Factor Meals?
Well, let's get back to what Factor Meals offers people.
Well, that's what I'm saying is they offer people good quality, wholesome food at an attractive price and a variety of options, and it's nutritional and quick and easy for people on the go in their hurry scurry world. In the hurry scurry world, that sounds like a 60s folk song. A little New Christie's minstrel here. Factormeals.com/JCE50 and use the code JCE50, 50% off. How in the world can it, I mean, even if it wasn't any good, feed it to the kids for half off, right? You're saving a ton of money.
Once again, focus on your own personal health and supply yourself with the right fuel to be as healthy as you can be. There's only one dream that you can have.
Only one star you can.
What I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, very clearly.
There's only one factor you need to factor into this.
You need to factor this into your life. What's that promo code? One more time, Jim.
Factormeals.com/JCE50. Use the code JCE50. You're going to get 50% off.
Well, that's Factor, a fine meal I wish I was eating right now. Instead, I think we're about 50% through Raw. Is that correct?
Well, no, actually we're not, but we'll pick up time. But why you wish you were eating instead of talking to me?
I don't mind talking to you while I'm eating as long as you're not watching me eat.
Well, then I feel like that you're just goddamn blowing me off if I'm talking to you and you're just standing there stuffing your face and not fucking paying attention to me.
I have super hearing. I'm listening to you with my super hearing.
Well, then why are we on Skype? I should just talk out loud in my own office here in my house and you'd be able to hear me.
There's a lot of other things out there that would pick up between here and Louisville, Kentucky in terms of sound, birds, rocks falling. Could be a number of things.
People clicking off their goddamn devices. So we were at the 9 o'clock hour. And that's where we came, or what we came here, folks, I'll say that again.
That's what we came here, folks.
That's what we came here for, folks. Cody in the ring for a big promo, got a big reaction and chant. The people in Lexington, by the way, always been a wonderful wrestling crowd. So he's getting the chance and everything, and that's where I noticed the great crowd shots. And again, the Rupp Arena was designed because they knew they were going to be on national television and with the Final Four or the NCAA tournament or whatever on some, regular basis. So they wanted it to look sharp. And Cody says the reason that he is able to say that he chooses Roman Reigns or that he'll face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania was the fans. Because the wink and the nod, I'm going to WrestleMania and I'm going to face Roman Reigns, but it was because of you guys. And the people who know that it really was, and they started the "We Want Cody" chant. And he said, I'm just trying to think of how I can possibly repay you. Well, I think there's only one way to repay you. And he looks dramatically at the WrestleMania sign. And they're building this in perfectly with The Rock and all of the statements and the backlash and uproar, because then he says, I don't want to come out here and be emotional and become a crybaby, which is another buzzword because Rock, the Cody crybabies. And as soon as he says crybaby, the fans start chanting Rocky sucks. They have ended up with a way where they are able to write this where they know what the fans are going to do and they can bring it up. It's like the fans are working with them. Well, the fans are working with them, but the fans genuinely goddamn. Do you know what I'm saying? They blurred work and shoot. The fans genuinely wanted this and were in a genuine uproar that they weren't going to get it. But now that they know they're getting it, they've been able to write around it where they can have the fans work with them.
Yep.
This is so goddamn confusing, I can't explain it. Anyway, so they actually pitched to the goddamn footage of Rock on Pat McAfee, who, by the way, is at ringside doing commentary, but on his show, Rock was talking about the Cody crybabies shoving chicken nuggets up their asses, and fucking Cody was he gets the people to fucking laugh. He's like, what are we supposed to do with the nuggets, Pat? I mean, they have succeeded. The show, we don't need the matches. They just come out and fucking talk. And he put McAfee on the spot a little bit, made him a little uncomfortable. And then, still trying to be the baby face-ish, she said, all of us at some point or another were fans of The Rock, and the crowd starts booing again. But he said, I said nothing to defile The Rock's ancestors, and he slapped me in the face in public. The only thing he didn't say is, if you will. And then he said that what that means is I'm going to hit you back. But that's perfect with The Rock. And then here's Seth music. And we get 5 minutes of limp strutting and crowd woeing because he's over. But he's still having to do he has to crouch because he's trying to baby the knee. And it is, I don't know. Could he just not go ahead and do what he did the first week, Seth I'm talking about, and wear the brace over the fucking whatever and say, I'm working on this every day, but I'm braced up and I'm ready to go. Steve Austin wore two knee braces or 2 new braces in most of his biggest matches. And nobody was like, oh, poor Steve, even if his knees were hurt, but he didn't give the appearance of that. Am I being too nitpicky?
Maybe in this case.
Well, then they shouldn't have come out and he shouldn't have said, well, I've done all this damage to my knee, but I'm going to be there anyway. Why is this not part of the story that the world champion, gutsiest motherfucker on the goddamn roster, he's going to go out there, his knee isn't 100%, but he don't give a shit. Why did they tell us his knee was bad and establish that? And then even if his knee's better by now, why aren't they give him a little, it's better than him having to fucking strut the limpy strut, isn't it? Don't make me come over there.
Oh, what are you going to do? The limpy strut?
I'll do the limpy strut into the curly shuffle.
Ah!
So
they used to play that during the Mets games.
Well, there you go. Wise guy. So Seth says, I was looking forward to facing you at WrestleMania, but I understand you got to finish the story. Okay, now they're establishing some kind of bond here with them after the press conference and etc. We're tying up some basic loose ends here. And Seth Rollins has been on a roll here verbally. If you ignore that he's wearing his wife's clothes and the strutting. But he told Cody, you need to finish the story for you, for me, for Dusty, for the fans. if you don't beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, it's going to be a dark time after WrestleMania. And Rollins comes out there and builds this up as the last real chance that any of us, is a quote, any of us have to take the power and give it to the people. This was some brilliant shit. I love this. This was best Seth Rollins has been in a while. And it's perfect. If he don't fucking win, if Cody doesn't win, goddamn, everybody's going down with the ship on this one. I mean, they're doubling down. We thought that it was ready last year. It's goddamn ready. But now there's Seth, who, can you see Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins against The Rock and Roman Reigns? Of course we can. And Seth is positioned where we don't have to see Seth and Cody fight again, which nobody really wanted to, but as a tag team or as a two friends combined for a purpose against other nefarious forces against them, whatever the fuck, yes. And but anyway, Rollins did a great job with building the last real chance that any of us have. Don't let but then he says, what's your plan? Last year, the bloodline was there. What's different this year? Now it's The Rock. And again, Rocky sucks. Rocky sucks. But then Rollins, like, I don't know if John Wayne would have been this grammatically correct, but he says, you do not have to fight alone, and gets a big pop. And he says, think about it. And off he goes. So, and he did the part about the entitled pricks getting away with everything, and that he's stepping up and then he made the Shield references. He referred to him in Roman's days as the partners. And, so basically he wants to be Cody's Shield. That's what is, but you pick it apart. What did you think Cody was too dramatic, or what's the issue?
Whenever Cody's on his own, he gets too dramatic, but he's great at interacting with people and playing off people. Rollins, I'm getting used to this now. He comes out there with his silly stuff, and then he starts talking serious, and he's great.
Yeah.
Weeks now he's been doing this. I like the idea of people in the company who are competitive with each other coming together because of the realization we have to end the bloodline somehow. This is our only chance. They're only going to get stronger after this. They've got a new Death Star. It's The Rock. I liked it.
So, again, not just WrestleMania. Believe it or not, Brian, from what I understand, I read the paper the other day, and they've actually scheduled April to continue after WrestleMania. There will be life after WrestleMania. Around the world, people will still continue on. So they've got all kinds of goddamn matches here. Do they still do King of the Ring or SummerSlam or Saudi Arabia or, fucking, I don't know, the Bolshevik Revolution, whatever.
Yeah, when they book Wembley.
Yeah, well, Wembley may be looking for a wrestling show next August, the way things are going over here in the States. You never know about these things. But honestly, and we'll talk about a couple of things, and one more good thing, I'm gonna give some accolades to some people, or allocades, as Luger would have said. But we did have to sit through Liv Morgan and Zoe Stark, and R-Truth wrestled JD Funko. And I make note of this because somebody in the crowd had a sign that said Pork Chop Cash and the Dream Machine. Across from the hard camera.
I didn't watch those segments, so I missed it.
Yes, it was, well, and there was, Cornette Face was on the second row all night, but guy looked like he was 6'8", I think, too, so nobody was going to tell him to take it off. But anyway, at 10 o'clock, Becky Lynch, in-ring promo. And I'll tell you what, I know she can talk, and she's been over for her talking for some time, and sometimes I give the whole women's division, I got other things to do. But I want to see what's going on because I want to see what her interaction is going to be with Rhea Ripley. And again, she did a good promo about her obsession with wrestling, as both as a fan and then as she gotten into it, and how, she sacrificed family and her daughter has to see her get beat up and bloody, but she's also going to have to see the brutality that she's capable of. And you can tell she's got a ton of input in this. This is something that this was hers, and she maybe, I don't know what the procedure is up there or the process these days. Did she go to the writers and say, hey, I want to say this shit? I've got this input or whatever, but this was her shit, at least quite a bit of it. And then, when she did that, then she redirected to, she was a mother, but she wanted to talk to mommy. And then they chant mommy, mommy, because they love Rhea Ripley. And Becky Lynch tells the fans, you don't think anybody can beat her, but I ain't just anybody. And she asked for a drink, and it looked like they gave her either a lemonade or a urine sample. Did you? The fuck?
It was a little more yellow than water would be, yes.
Well, but it was, I mean, we've seen, obviously, beer in arena plastic cups in the Austin segments, or if she didn't want people to think she's drinking beer, then it could have been water, or it could even be cola covered. But lemonade, was that the first choice? I don't know. Anyway, she gets the drink, and she asks everybody to raise a drink or raise your popcorn or raise your fist to Rhea Ripley, and they start doing it. And she says her last few weeks as champion, bottoms up. And then the people kind of boo a little bit. But instead of Rhea Ripley music, we get Ripley's Believe It or Not music. Here comes a refrigerator. And she plods to the ring with a microphone, speaking in her Valium-induced monotone with no emotion, no inflection, and a touch of bad acting. That just the voice... You would expect her to sound, my God, can we get Beatrice Arthur to do her voiceover, right? So you would expect some kind of shrewish, monstrous, but instead it's like, she sounds like Sable. And it just blows the look. And she gets in the ring and has a face-off with Becky, which, obviously there's a size differential. And that's where I've also noticed the young man wearing the Cornette face shirt. And did you listen to any of this? Do you know what I'm about to talk about?
I kind of didn't know.
Okay, well, I encourage everybody to, if you want to see some rotten fucking acting. The refrigerator tells Becky Lynch, her story is how much she respects her for what she just said, this promo that she had done about her obsession with wrestling and her relationship with her daughter. And Jax says, if my mother was half the mother that you are, I'd be lucky. And she says, and hopefully one day I can be a mother and use you as an example to and she starts trying to fake cry. And her voice is the cracking, kind of like when Lucy was crying whenever Ricky'd get upset about something. And then the refrigerator tells Becky that she knows that Becky's going to win at Elimination Chamber because of her drive for her daughter. So that Becky, you're going to go to WrestleMania, and then she gets real fake serious, and I'm going to beat Rhea, so it'll be you and me. And now we get Rhea Ripley music. And this was like two diamonds sandwiching a sequin. Because here comes somebody that looks like a star, and of course she didn't even bother to talk, but she talks like a star whenever and she hits the ring and takes the refrigerator down and attempts to unplug her and defrost her. But in the skirmish, the refrigerator squashes Rhea in the corner, but it just happens to be the corner that Becky Lynch is standing in, and so Becky Lynch gets squashed too. And now Rhea's down, but as Jax is going to kill Ripley, Becky Lynch climbs to the top rope and drop kicks the refrigerator, and she takes a bump out to the floor and tries to get back on the apron, and Rhea comes over and gives her the big boot off the apron and keeps the danger on the floor, but now there's Becky and Rhea in the ring together. So even this was a great angle. It's just, if anybody else with a personality could look like the refrigerator and could actually do this and it'd make it interesting. That's my thought.
Well, I look forward to Becky and Rhea at WrestleMania. It's the road to WrestleMania that's the bumpy path.
And then we had LA Knight and Ivar, the Viking, and his lovely sidekick, Valhalla.
Valhalla.
And, you know, that's a golf club here in Louisville also. That's where they have the big PGA tournament. Traffic is horrible. And then it was the main event, Shaky and Sammy. And this went longer than it needed to. And then Drew McIntyre distracts Sami Zayn and Shaky wins. And then they beat up Sammy until Cody hit the ring and made a big fucking save and beat up Drew and Shaky. And so that was exciting. Did I miss any nuance in that?
Excitement personified, certainly.